today's lesson, we will affirm that the Ten Commandments are God's instructions to believers, be encouraged to follow God's commands, and develop ways of living that reflect godly obedience. The law, or the Ten Commandments, is 1. A law of God's making, and 2. A law of God's own speaking. God has many ways of speaking to the children of men. He never spoke at any time on any occasion as he spoke the Ten Commandments. This brings us to our key verse for today, which reads, I am the Lord your God, who rescued you from the land of Egypt, the place of your slavery. You must not have any other God but me. Exodus chapter 20, verses 2 and 3. This week's message recounts one of the most climactic moments of the Old Testament, God giving the Ten Commandments to Moses for him to pass along to the children of Israel. How do we know that the Ten Commandments are more than arbitrary do's and don'ts? Well, this verse demonstrates the twofold foundation on which the Decalogue is built, God and God's grace. First, we see the majestic self-revelation of God as the Lord, who revealed himself by this name to Moses and showed his kindness to the Israelite forefathers all the way back to Abraham. Then we see the pattern God establishes for his people. First, he acts to save them in his mercy. Second, they remember the greatness of what God has done. And third, they respond by honoring God with their obedience. The Ten Commandments address specifically what it looks like to not have any other gods before or besides God. Knowing the waywardness of the Israelites' hearts and the frequency of idol-making among their neighbors, Israel's God reveals that to make an image is to violate the heart of the first commandment. To worship images is, by definition, to have other gods beyond the Lord, whether the object of the image is in heaven above or somewhere on or under the earth. Such worship turns upside down the proper and beautiful relationship between creator and creature. However severe God's justice might seem, such justice is completely minuscule when compared to his mercy. If justice lasts a few generations, then mercy lasts for thousands and thousands. The third commandment, like all the others, says more than it appears to at first, as Jesus makes clear in his treatment of the commandments about murder and adultery. It concerns not just the mouth, but also the heart. As such, this commandment forbids both speaking and believing things about God that are untrue or unworthy of him. We also see God's mercy in the explanation of the Sabbath command. Though the chief issue is God's honor and glory, the people's Sabbath rest is certainly also for their blessing. God's Sabbath command, when spelled out in detail, shows itself to be a covenantal command. The hallowing of the seventh day is not simply a matter of respecting oneself, but of revering the solemn commitment of one's entire household. The Lord calls on the covenantal heads of the families to see to it that he is honored by their conduct on this day of days. Even animals are included in this matter. The Lord graciously grounds the Sabbath command for his people on the foundation of his own character and work. So here's our lesson. Clearly, God has the power to bring us out of the things that have us bound. We need to consider his track record and know that he still has a lot more that he can do in our lives. For this reason, we should not constantly challenge God as the Israelites, his chosen people, did. And so this week, let's ask God to help us to follow his commands, his statutes, and his word. Thank you so much for listening and subscribing to iLights. Heavenly Father, fill our hearts with what we truly desire, for who we truly seek is you.